When Hunter, our new head of strategy, stood in front of 40 people and called me legacy bloat, I could have gotten mad. I could have stood up and explained that he was currently driving the company into a brick wall at 100 miles per hour. But I didn't. I just sat there, took a sip of my lukewarm coffee, and thought, okay, Hunter, if you're the smartest guy in the room, let's see what you've got. Spoiler alert, he didn't have anything. And his arrogance wouldn't just cost him his job, it would burn exactly $2.4 million and eventually bring the feds to our doorstep. Stick around, because this revenge wasn't just served cold, it was sub-zero. I'm Tom. My job title sounds boring to most people, Director of Federal Compliance. In the tech world, that is definitely not sexy. But here's the catch. Our entire budget, our salaries, the server farm, and even Hunter's leased Tesla depended on government contracts, and those contracts depended on my digital signature. Hunter came fresh from a top-tier consulting firm in New York. He wore suits that cost more than my car and spoke a language made entirely of buzzwords. Synergy, disruption, hyper-scalability. In his very first all-hands meeting, he put up a slide with my face on it, crossed out in red. "We need to trim the fat," he announced proudly. "Tom's department is a relic. We don't need bureaucracy, we need vision. I'm going to automate these legacy processes." After the meeting, I approached him. I wanted to be fair. "Hunter," I said calmly, "I am the authorized organization representative, the AOR, for our federal contracts. The government portal only works with my encrypted security token. If you remove me, the Department of Defense freezes the funds. That's federal law." He laughed. That fake, condescending laugh that makes you want to punch a wall. He actually petted me on the shoulder. "Buddy," he said. Yeah, he called me Buddy. "You're thinking too small. That's just paperwork. My assistant will handle it with an AI tool. Clean out your desk by Friday." Hunter didn't stop there. He wanted to make an example of me. He renamed my department from Compliance Office to the Legacy Support Unit. He cut my travel budget. He even banned me from the culture lunches because I wasn't a cultural fit for the future team. He replaced my meticulously maintained audit logs with a colorful board on Monday.com with tasks like get cash or make Uncle Sam happy. I'm not joking. He thought you could just send a thumbs up emoji to the IRS. I packed my desk. I was moved to the basement, right next to the noisy server racks. It smelled like ozone and dust. My colleagues, people I'd worked with for 5 years, wouldn't look me in the eye. They were terrified of ending up on Hunter's chopping block. Only Linda from accounting snuck down once. She brought me a Snickers and whispered, "Tom, it's a dumpster fire upstairs." Hunter just expensed $500 worth of champagne and categorized it as office supplies. The auditors are going to lose their minds. I just smiled and said, "Eat the candy, Linda. You're going to need the sugar for the stress." I sat down there like the Count of Monte Cristo. I opened my personal laptop. I didn't have access to the company bank accounts anymore. But Hunter forgot to revoke my access to the government contractor portal, sam.gov. Why? Because he didn't know it existed. I watched the deadlines turn red. Alert, quarterly compliance report missing. Alert, default imminent in 72 hours. Alert, escalation level 1. I could have sent an email. One phone call would have stopped the catastrophe. But I remembered Hunter's words. We don't need bureaucracy. So I did exactly what he wanted. I was agile. I did absolutely nothing. The first cracks were small. Expense reports got rejected. Then we couldn't order new MacBooks because our credit line was frozen. Hunter was raging in meetings. I could hear him all the way from the hallway. "Why is the money not in the account?" he screamed at his assistant, a 22-year-old unpaid intern named Josh. "The system is asking for the AOR token, Hunter," the kid stammered. "It says Authorized signatory missing. Then hack it or bypass it. We are tech pioneers, damn it. But you can't disrupt the federal government. It's a bureaucratic monster made of concrete. It doesn't care about your pivot. Then Hunter did the unthinkable. Since he didn't have my digital key and the deadline was hitting, he scanned my old wet signature from a birthday card I signed years ago. He photoshopped it onto the federal affidavit PDF and hit upload. I watched the document pop up in the portal. My heart started racing. This wasn't incompetence anymore. This wasn't creative accounting. This was wire fraud, making false statements to the federal government. 18 U.S. Code 1001. In that moment, I knew. He hadn't just fired himself. He had ruined his life. I took a screenshot, saved it to a USB drive, backed it up to the cloud, and then I waited for the boom. Judgment Day was a gray Tuesday. Mr. Sterling, our founder and CEO, came back unexpectedly from sick leave. He didn't look angry. He looked like someone whose house had just burned down. He didn't storm in. He walked slowly, ghost quiet, into the glass-walled boardroom where Hunter was presenting to the board. "We need to shift the mindset," Hunter was shouting, pointing to a graph that went straight up. Mr. Sterling dropped a thick, heavy envelope on the table. The sound of that paper hitting the mahogany was louder than a gunshot. "Do you know what this is, Hunter?" Sterling asked quietly. "Fan mail from the investors?" Hunter tried to joke. Nobody laughed. "It's a notice of default and an investigation notice for $2.4 million, immediately due." Sterling's voice shook with suppressed rage. "They are accusing us of felony fraud. They didn't just cut our funding. They called the FBI." The room went dead silent. You could hear a pin drop. Hunter went so pale he looked translucent. He stammered, "Those are just back-end glitches. I replaced Tom. We streamlined You fired the only person legally authorized to touch that money," Sterling suddenly roared. "And then you forged his signature on a federal document? Do you think the feds are stupid?" Hunter sank into his chair. He looked around, looking for an ally. Sterling turned to the door. "Get Tom, now." When I walked into the room, I could smell Hunter's fear sweat. It smelled better than any expensive cologne. I was wearing my old hoodie and holding a simple binder. I placed the binder on the table. "Here is the backup of all the correct legal filings," I said calmly. "Here are the logs of Hunter's unauthorized login attempts. And this," I pulled out the page with the photoshopped signature, "is the reason Hunter needs to call a very expensive lawyer. Right now." Hunter wasn't just fired that day. He was escorted out of the building by 2 security guards, and there were some guys in suits waiting for him in the parking lot. His Tesla stayed right where it was. The company had to pay a massive fine, but thanks to my backups, we proved it was a rogue actor. We got our funding back. Me? I got my old office back, a 20% raise, and an espresso machine that is strictly for my use only. The best part? As Hunter was packing his single box of personal items, he asked me quietly, almost crying, "Why didn't you say anything?" I just smiled at him and said, "I didn't want to interrupt your workflow, Hunter." A warning wouldn't have been very agile, would it? Remember, folks, never go to war with the guy who knows the passwords. Subscribe for more stories about corporate karma. See you next time.